everybody. So the video this time is a little bit different. Here in Texas, we have had some very not normal weather. So you'll see as we go how the week started versus how the week ended and the projects that went on in the between. We're still just finishing up recovering from all of this here in Texas, but things are looking up. All right, so I'm gonna go over the plan for my garden this year. I took and made a list of all the seeds that I have, and I put them into piles as to when they need to be planted. And I looked on the back. In the Austin area, our planting season is, we're a zone 8. So we can have spring gardens. They're like an early spring garden. And then we have fall gardens. So we don't have that heat of the summer garden. Unlike when I lived in Michigan. So last year I tried to plant my garden at the end of May, like I used to do when I lived in Michigan. Nothing lived, nothing worked. So we're going to plant the garden for an early spring garden and then see how it does and possibly plant a fall garden later. What I did is I made a list of all of my seed packets. I can show you here, and I put down what months they need to be planted between, and then also how many rows and plants I'm gonna do of each one. So I have an idea of what I wanna do. On the back I have flowers. That's what's gonna go by the chicken coops because they like to try and eat them. And I'd rather have them eat flowers if I can't figure out how to keep them protected versus eating my vegetables. Then what I did is I took a grid paper and I actually drew my boxes and each 2 squares is a foot. So I was able to make a layout of my garden as far as what needs to be planted first directly outside within the next month. I used 2 resources. So this is the book that I used to learn about gardening in Texas specifically, since I'm not from Texas. And then another great book is the Vegetable Gardener's Bible. It's just a good resource. I ended up with squash beetles, and so I was able to look up the pests that are in here and figure out that that's what I had was squash beetles. Also, they have a super handy page for planning your garden as far as what vegetables go good together and what ones don't. So like I can look up, because I'm gonna have beans, they're bush beans, and it tells me all the things that they're good with, which is a ton of things, but then also what not to plant them near. So don't plant them near basil, fennel, kohlrabi, or onions. So I just need to make sure I don't plant my beans next to my onions. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna actually start the seeds that need to be started in the house to be transplanted come March. What I have is I bought the trays and the little cups online to start my seeds. And I actually saw this from Jill Winger. She's another homestead YouTuber. She lives out in Wyoming. She uses a pencil and she makes the little hole for the seeds to go in that fashion. I just used regular potting soil. A lot of things say seed starter, but I have heard that plenty of people have very good luck with just using regular old potting soil. So instead of buying something specific for the seed starting, I'm just gonna try my luck. We'll see how it goes. And then where I put my seeds, I have a south-facing window in my bedroom. So I set up a table and I have the blackout curtains. I just go around, and so they get lots of nice sunlight. This is the sunny side of the house. That window right there is the bedroom window where the seeds are sitting. I have one garden box at this point. As you can see, the chickens found their way into it and have dust bathed it to the point of all there are left are wood chips. My plan for this is to empty out the wood chips and actually move the garden box over here and just fill it with dirt so the chickens, it'll just become a gigantic dust bath, and then place smaller low to the ground garden boxes on both sides and then fence off right here. for shade, but to protect from the freezing rain. Today here in Texas, we are getting freezing rain, which is not normal, but when you work full time, you only have a limited amount of time to get projects done. And I want to get the fencing put up so I can put in new garden boxes to keep the feather ladies out. So I set up this tent, so we're gonna go ahead and put in our fence. I ended up buying a landscape timber for the gate. The reason for that is the prices of wood right now are super expensive. So the 4x4 was like $15, where a landscape timber was $5. And it's a small gate, it's only a 4-foot gate. So it should be really easy and plenty strong, with this being at least 2 feet in the ground, if not more, to hold the gate without any troubles. So that's the plan, is to use this landscape timber, get it put in the ground, hook the gate on, and then I just have to put the fence stakes and chicken wire up. So let's go. With it being so cold, I actually did get out the heat lamp. It doesn't put off a ton of heat, but if the ladies get too cold, they can go sit by it. So I covered up the vents at the top that were letting in a lot of air. The vents on the sides are still open, so there is still airflow, just because chickens, they do need a lot of ventilation because they're very stinky. But I needed to cut down on the airflow so the heat stays in a little bit more. And then what I did for their door, because their door is a big door and it lets in a lot of cold air, I took a piece of foam and attached it in the doorway, so now it's much smaller, chicken sized. So hopefully the heat stays in a little bit more. All I did was drill a few little holes in it and attach some straps. So this evening I'll be able to close up their coop and the foam will actually be able to stay in place. The other side, this door, there is a gap, so I figured it was losing a lot of air. So what I did is I took 2 pieces of foam. This lower one is just sitting between the poop boards. It's being held in place that way. The one on the top, again, I just took some bungee straps and some screws and attached them in place. So they still have the tops here for vents, so they still do get airflow, but hopefully the heat will stay in just a little bit more. Their automatic watering system, one of the cups fell off. You can see the ice actually pushed it out. So I picked up extra parts today to fix it. I'm not gonna do anything with it right now. It is still completely frozen. And in case I need to get more parts to fix it, once things thaw out, I will know the extent of the damage as far as if any of the other hoses burst or the bucket or if there's any leaks. And then what I did for their water inside the coop, because like I said, their automatic watering system is frozen, so their cups that they normally will drink out of at night are frozen. So I have their brooder water from when they were really little in the corner over there. You can kind of see it, and the heat lamp is above, so it is staying unfrozen. So what I'm using for the outdoor water, I filled up the pan. This ice is actually from before I put the heater in, but this is just a fish tank heater, just a small one up to a 20 gallon. They did keep knocking it out, so I put a little office clip to keep it in, and it is low 20s and it is not frozen at all, and in fact more of the ice has melted as the day has gone on. All right, you guys, we are going on the 4th day of freezing temperatures. I worked the last 2 and then today had to take time away from putting in the fence. in order to secure up the chicken coop, try and warm the girls up, make sure that they have water that is not frozen. The goal for today, with the amount of light that we have left, even though it is around 23, 25 maybe, it's definitely below freezing. The goal is to get the second post in for this gate so that it quits swinging willy-nilly. It'll go right here so the chain can come off to it. The way this fence is going to work is that I'm going to use this post, and then I'll put a third post in the ground at the corner of the house. It'll have chicken wire strung between, and then just the drive and the ground stakes in the middle just to secure it a little bit. It's more of a temporary fence than a full-time fence, so it doesn't need to be super sturdy, just enough to keep the chickens out. The GoPro died because it's cold out, but was able to get that last post in. So all 3 posts are in. Like I said, I'm going to use that fence post there as the 4th one. Time to go inside, start a fire, and warm those toes back up. Yep, it is definitely cold for this part of Texas. So this is what we wake up to. Fish tank heater is working. That is actually going to get moved into the coop. There's so much snow, the ladies won't come out today to free range. I actually closed the coop doors to the run last night to try and keep in warmth. We have the water moved. See, their coop is locked up. Let's peek in the windows at them. You can hear them in there. All right, it is currently 11:30 at night. We have no power, so no heat. The water is frozen. So the tent is set up in the garage. And everybody is super happy and extra rambunctious because they all got woken up to be brought in, and now they're playing in the straw. But everybody now has water that is not frozen, a warmer bed, completely out of the elements, and we'll call it good night. The power came back on, and there is no sleeping when these ladies are in the garage. Since it is freezing rain, you can see it on the trees, but it's right at close to freezing. So there's actually a lot of water coming off of the icicles on the roof. So I'm taking the opportunity, since I still don't have actual water, to collect in buckets. No, nobody's gonna drink that. It's coming off the roof, it looks disgusting. But then I can use it to flush the toilet with. Ever hear the singing of egg laying? We're getting some eggs.